we are hopefully wrapping up our reports today. That's our goal. The first thing I want to do is let's fix the look of the task by status. I've been playing around with it a little bit, so this is a little different from the last time you saw it. Essentially, if you look at tasks or a general task list, we've got some stuff here. We're full line, we've got a button, and this stuff doesn't really make as much sense when this is a report. So what we're going to do here is we're not going to, from a report, be able to jump in. So this go page on click, we're not going to worry about that anymore, which means because this isn't an interactive report, we don't need to worry about the IDs at all. And actually what we want to do for here is we're going to turn this into a table because it's going to be a little easier for us to deal with it that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to come swing through here, blah, blah, blah. There we go. So there's our table. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create some headers. So we're going to have a header row that's going to be, let's call it, this is going to be the time frame. We're also going to have, and this is going to make stuff just a little bit easier for us to deal with. So we're going to do a time frame, a name, a due date. Let's do status. Let's do status and then due date. Status. We'll go ahead and do time spent. And then due date. So now we can take all of these and we're going to shrink these down a little bit. So then all we need to do is for each one, we're going to create a row. Get rid of our divs. And this is going to be a detail, so a TD. Now we could do some more interesting things with these, but we're not going to at this point. We may come back and sort of like some advanced stuff. I'll look at some ways to play around with tables and why this may make a lot of sense for us, particularly from reports. And just sort of a spoiler alert, what we can do is we're going to be able to do things like use a Jquery table pager that basically makes it real easy for stuff to look good and have paging built into our reports without us having to do much work at all. But that works with a table as opposed to divs. So we're going to keep that in mind. It also requires us to have like a table header, a table body, or T-head, T-body section, which we're not going to do right now, but we will talk about that at some point. Just something if you want to jump ahead at some point and clean this up. So let's see. So we've got due date, but no. So we have time frame, name, status, spent, and due date. So that's our, here we'll sort of like clean it up a little bit. We'll do it like that. So there's our rows. And let's make our table. We're going to make it not 100%. And let's just look at that right now. We may do some more cleanup, but for now, whoops, that's task. I want to go to report. If I want to do task by status, complete. And what we're going to see here is something that's a lot more report-like. Then we can add some more stuff. We can do some borders and some spacing. But for right now, we're just going to keep it like this. Now, before we had by status, we had by timeline. So we could look at our first quarter. We've got some stuff there. Then roadmap is basically the same thing. But roadmap, what we want to do is pick a roadmap. So let's go back and handle that one. In which case, so here, the parameter is actually a roadmap. So what we need to do is we need to find all the tasks where for a certain roadmap. Now we actually have that query. Let's see, where do we put that? I believe this is it. that's not it. Do we have edit roadmap? I think we had tasks. Within that, we may not have. Oh no, because within that, we had the time frames. So, well, let's play with this a little bit. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Where did we put that? That's going to be up here. So what we want is we want all of the tasks. Oops, that's not it. We want all of the tasks where we have a specific roadmap. And so this is going to be a bit of a challenge. And what we want to do is, so let's start by this. Is what we want to do is get our, see, we'll do it in a single. Let's do it in a single query. So this is just going to be tasks. And it's going to be raw. And we do want our ID. We know we're going to pass that in. And what we want to do here is we're going to we want to do t.star. So we know we want that from DP project tasks, I believe is what we called it. It's just task. And let's actually, oh, that's running. Let's go over here. Let's just do it this way. I'm going to cheat. Whoops. Oh, it won't let me do that. Okay, so I got to go back and actually have to remember what my password was. And that's in my settings, wherever I put my settings. So let's see, my user is root, and that's my password. So -u root -p that. Oh. So now let's show databases because I forget what it's called. It is DP project. And now show tables. So we can do a select star from DP project underscore task. Oh. So now we've got that. So we've got all of our tasks. Now, so let's start with that. So if we do that, but now what we need to do, and that's, we're going to call it T, but now we're going to have to join. So we can do an inner join on DP project time frame. So we're going to call him TF. And we're going to do it on the time frame, on the task dot time frame ID. And if we look back here, we can see where we're going to do it where this time frame ID. So we want to get all the time frames where the time frame ID, the ID for that equals our time frame ID. So this is going to pull in all of our project, all of our time frames. And now here, and then we want it where the time frame dot parent ID, which I think is what we called the roadmap. So we've got our time frame, roadmap. And so now we have to jump up to where the roadmap ID equals our task. And so here, let's look at this. And let's give ourselves a roadmap ID of 1 and see if that brings us something back. Well, let's do that. So if we do it where roadmap ID equals 1, then we do get tasks back based on that. And so this is going to be And this is, where do we go back to our view? So walking through this real quick, we get everything from our task. But now what we're going to do is we're going to, with each task, we're going to look into the time frame and look at its roadmap ID. That's where we get this tf.id. And then we want the roadmap ID equal to the value that we send across. And so in doing, now, if we go to roadmap and we look at all that are in our personal goals, annual goals 2022, we're going to see we don't have any. But if we look at 2021, we see that we do have some. So if we go to roadmap 2022, it doesn't have any children, it doesn't have any tasks. So we can see that one actually pretty quickly. Now here, annual goals, we've got professional goals doesn't have any children, and personal goals does, and has some tasks here. If we look down here, now this is because if you look, the time frames do not roll up. So we just looked at the top level. So we do have to make a change here. So what we want to do is we want to change this around a little bit. Is we need to look where the roadmap is that. But if we look at our roadmaps, we're going to see, if we can remember, let's see, from time frames, I'm sorry. We're going to be able to come in here and we're going to see that some, okay, so those all have a roadmap of, oh, well, they should be good. So they should have tasks. So we probably are okay. So if we look at, and we need to figure out what we're missing here. Oh, probably because some, let's go back and look at our tasks. If we look at our tasks and we have our time frame ID, some do not have, we have some of these that we did not tie actually to a time frame, which is interesting enough. So if we look at these, so if we look at like task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're not actually going to see those anywhere, I don't think. So we look in here, we've got a whole bunch of tasks, but because we didn't tie them to a time frame, then we're not going to see them. So even though we had a bunch, we don't have anything listed out. So that's why we're seeing a little bit different. But if we look to all tasks, if we go back here and look at our task list, so we can see here, see time frame none. Those should not, technically should not exist. But even if they do, they're not tied to a roadmap. So we are good. Now, let's go back to our report. And if we look at by status, so let's see, here's all of our new, I think what I'm going to do, we could do a couple different things here, but I think right now what I want to do is wrap this episode up, because what we've got next is basically some cleanup kinds of things. And I think the next one I want to do is actually do more of a walkthrough, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about UAT, basically user acceptance testing. And since we're going to say this is, quote, done, sort of, we've got all of our basics in. We're going to do a walkthrough, and we're actually going to talk about some of the things that we need to fix. Now, some of these have been done along the way, but also they've been done without a thought towards we haven't gone through and done like a sweeping test to see if we broke stuff or not. And so we're going to do that next time around, and we're getting pretty close. We're going to actually get to the point where we can wrap this thing up in the next couple episodes. But until then, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.